Hello, I'm Scott Davis. Welcome to New World Birth. This is the Rave New Year neutrino forecast for January 22nd of 2015. And on the 22nd, we've got the sun. It's in Aquarius, but it also enters the 41st hexagram at 3:52 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the sun in the 41st hexagram is then mapped to an opening in an energy channel called the gate. And right here we have the 41st gate of contraction, decrease, the limitation of resources, which maximizes the development of potential, located in the root center in a abstract collective energy path in the sensing circuit called the channel of recognition, a design of focused energy that connects to the 30th gate of recognition of feelings, the clinging fire, freedom recognized as an illusion, limitation as fate. So at 3:52 a.m. on the 22nd, we've got the following activated gates. We've got the sun, it's in the first line of the 41. The earth is in the first line of the 31. We have the moon in the fourth line of the 30, with the north node in the fourth line of the 48, the south node in the fourth line of the 21. We've got Mercury, it's newly retrograde, and it's in the fifth line of the 13. Venus is in the fifth line of the 49. Mars is detrimented in the third line of the 37. Jupiter's retrograde in the first line of the fourth hexagram. Saturn is exalted in the third line of the 34. Uranus is in the fourth line of the 21. And Neptune is in the first line of the 37, with Pluto detrimented in the fifth line of the 38. So we do have one channel definition due to the transit field during the Rave New Year, with the moon in the 30 connected with the sun in the 41. We've got the channel of recognition, which is really about the dream and having a dream, and that that without really any kind of expectation of the dream coming true or bringing any kind of lasting peace. This is part of the abstract collective circuitry. So sharing experiences about our hopes and dreams with others will have a profound ability to stir their feelings. I'd expect folks to be more restless in their experience of this connection between the root and the solar plexus. Also, for those who do not have emotional definition, this channel can bring the unfamiliar wave of emotions, a yearning to learn from what we feel. So the 64 hexagrams of the I Ching have corresponding codons in DNA, and the 41st is the only initiating codon, which begins every string of genetic information. There are 3 stop codons, but only one start codon, the 41. So every genetic sentence begins with the 41st codon, which is the gate of decrease, which begins the stream of the human experiential wave through the 30 of fate, and then to the 36 of crisis, and then finally up to the 35 of expectations. And this is the stream of desire for experience. The entry of the sun into the 41st gate initiates a new human cycle on this plane. And the 41 comes out of the root, which is a pressure center. So we have a pressure to start something new. And when the sun enters the gate of decrease in the channel of desire, we have the Rave New Year. This influences all forms of life at the beginning of a new solar cycle. Decrease is like the gardener who cuts the plant back so that it can sprout anew. And over the past few weeks, we've looked at the stages leading up to the Rave New Year. During the Gregorian New Year on January 1st, the sun was in the 38 opposition with the earth in the 39 of obstruction, bringing us to question, did we fulfill our purpose and fulfill our spirit in the past year? This is the beginning of actually the closing down of the cycle leading up to the Rave New Year. So was there a purpose? And then the sun it goes into the 54th gate of ambition, with the earth in the 53rd gate of beginnings. beginning to look forward. Who are the correct allies to fulfill our ambition for transformation and new beginnings? Who can I work with? Who can I trust and rely on? And then the sun moved into the 61st gate of inner truth, with the earth in the 62nd gate of details, which brings us to look within. Uh, Ourselves, look within ourselves for inspiration based on facts, based on what is possible. And then the sun it then moved into the 60th gate of limitation, just to have us let go, closing out the year, letting go of the seduction of the mind, letting go of the insecurities driving us to believe that we need to make something happen. Closing the book on the past to be ready to step forward into a new cycle, to get clean. This is about transcending limitation through acceptance. So let's look at this Rave New Year chart, which again occurred at 3:52 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, occurs on January 22nd. And we always start with the sun in the first line of the 41, which brings the imagination to make the very best out of very little. Well, the moon moves into the 30th gate before midnight on the 21st. And by the time the sun enters into the 41st hexagram, the moon is in the fourth line of the 30, burnout, bringing us a very strong emotional definition of this channel of recognition. And this is particularly difficult for those who've entered into the not self new beginning cycle with the Gregorian New Year, because the energy did not support getting things going with the right angle cross of tension. And so now they feel burnout. And burnout's a theme for this coming year. With the sun in the 41st gate of contraction, decrease, the limitation of resources, which maximizes the development of potential. The first line is reasonableness, the appropriate delegation of responsibility, exalted imagination to make the best out of very little. Coolness, where the energy to release feelings is selective. And detrimented, it's a tendency in understanding to assume capability, leading to strain, the hothead, the urge to release these feelings. And then on the other end, we've got the moon in the 30, in the line of burnout. Burnout, an unrealistic pace that begs misfortune. And this brings us a definition of the channel, brings us a definition. And with the definition, we have life force, and this is a life force with burnout. This is very powerful. The channel of recognition is collective channel. So there needs to be some kind of sharing. It's pressured emotionality. It's also deeply emotional. There's no truth in the now. And as Ross said about similar definitions in past Rave New Year forecasts, truth is not something that's going to be there this year. It's not something that's going to be accessible this year. And then we have the sun being backed up by Pluto in the 38th opposition, detrimented in the fifth line of alienation, a stage in opposition when one is totally isolated. Detrimented, alienation experienced as painful confinement that by its very nature blinds one to the possibility that there are those at some point who may come to one's aid. The energy for stubbornness is so strong that it's difficult to recognize that there are others that can help in times of struggle. And so this brings pressure to fight and struggle without allies. But if you're operating as yourself, you can take advantage of the program by using your strategy and authority to find the correct allies or not. On the 22nd, we have Venus in the defined solar plexus. It's in the fifth line of the 49th hexagram. Organization, exalted, practical provisions for the needs of others in revolutionary time, which ensures support and continued understanding, a potential sensitivity to the practical needs of others. Detrimented, concentration on the organization of power to clearly define authority, often at the expense of higher principles, a rejection of higher principles to seek in seeking to organize others. So we have homogenized people needing others in times of revolution, and yet they're alienated. And then the 30, the clinging fire, a source of this is a source of desire, but behind it lies the fates. It's an emotional gate. It's abstract. We've got the 41 saying, I want this fantasy and I want it desperately. And then the 30 it says, okay, but you're not going to get it the way you think. It's not going to be easy to get there. And this is burnout. This is an unrealistic pace that begs misfortune. This is about compulsion. It's compulsive. It's hyperactive. It's running around in survival mode. It's going to be the bursting of bubbles. It's going to be emotional outbursts. And then we have Mars and Neptune both in the 37, again in the defined solar plexus. And Mars is detrimented in the third line of the 37, which is even-handedness. The success of any group is dependent on maintaining order. Detrimented, the ironic tendency to either test incessantly the, the borders of acceptability or to respond to the very same tendency in others with severity. The possible lack of sensitivity to what behavior is appropriate. And the 37 continues the tribal stream from the 49 of revolution. So we have people testing the borders of acceptability and also challenging others who do the same. During the upcoming year, we'll see this played out in the not self of individuals and tribes. And although I consider the governments to be collective, I feel that politicians seem to have their own tribes within the government and their political parties. So it would not surprise me if we see a testing of what is acceptable and appropriate played out by tribal political parties within governments. Neptune in the first line of the 37. Neptune brings the veil to friendship and family, and in the first line, the mother, the father, a position of inherent respect that ensures focus for the development of guidelines. Harmony is the key to successful maintenance of relationships. It's only through harmony that the beauty and values of the family can endure. And Neptune doesn't let you see what things are about. And Neptune can trap you if you try to get behind the veil. Without strategy and authority, harmony seems improbable in the upcoming year. This is in a time where there is lack, a time when you're on your own, with the bursting of bubbles and outbursts, revolution, inappropriate behavior from tribes over resources to support families in being harmonious or not. And then we've got Saturn exalted in the third line of the 34, machismo, the indiscriminate display of power, exalted, where machismo unfortunately is invariably backed up by power. This is an exaltation only in that it is natural and not contrived. The display of power that defines any role. So we add power to the revolution where our allies are scarce and the borders and boundaries of what acceptable are challenged, with the pressure to begin something new that leading to burnout. And then we've got Uranus and the South Node both conjunct at the fourth line of the 21, strategy, careful appraisal of opposing forces to establish a proper response. Uranus is unusualness brings unusualness to strategy, bringing the instinct to use willpower effectively in response to conditions, but also the drive when it is right to follow one's ego rather than one's instinct. And then the Earth, detrimented in the first line of the 31, which is manifestation. Influence cannot exist in a vacuum. Detrimented the absorption of light that in darkness can only promise manifestation. The unnatural expression of leadership. Mercury. So here we're looking at that leadership may be expressed unnaturally under this influence of the detrimented Earth in the first line of the 31. And then we've got Mercury, which just went retrograde the day before the Rave New Year, and it is in the fifth line of the 13, the Savior, the ability to overcome all obstacles for the betterment of humanity. So we'll hear of people who are gifted in finding roles for others, bringing some light into the year. But these people may be seen as heretics and find that projection leads to being burned at the stake. But that's the dark side, the struggle over resources. And we really cannot change the ignorance of the not self world, but we can make a difference in our own lives. It's not so much that you can do. There's not so much you can do about the madness of the world. So take care of yourself and the ones you love. And no matter what's happening in the world, good, bad, or indifferent, take care of yourself and the ones you love. You can find your way by navigating as yourself. This is about not being homogenized. This is the weather, and so it doesn't have to negatively impact you. As Ross said, the beauty to understanding how to operate as yourself is that you're out of the program. And of course, we're moving towards 2027 and the end of the cross of planning as a background frequency that's going to insist that we have our own authority to guide us because we'll not have an infrastructure to support us. And we're all seeing this as basic support structures that have been in place through governments and institutions continue to dwindle. And as Ra has said in the past, never mind this year. It's not going to track any better over the years building up to 2027 because we have this slow breakdown of the 4037 community infrastructure. And it's not about waiting for a New Year's forecast that's going to be full of light and brightness, because that's not what's happening. You have to see that the counterpoint of the dissolving of the infrastructure is the empowering of the individual. And this is the only counterpoint. What your strategy and authority offers you is the empowerment of you as an individual. So align with your frequency through your strategy and authority so that you're operating as you truly are. Best wishes on this Rave New Year. May you live it as yourself. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste, in Lakesh, and as Ra would say, love yourself. All my best to everybody on this Rave New Year.